I also have this site called Holy Cow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the model with Holy Cow is these 22 contributors look for interesting stories. They write up a short summary.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to holycow.com. Holycow.com post has a link to the original source. The way we monetize that is when you come to the Holy Cow story, there's 3 banners there. So that's how we made the money. People complained to me that said, you found this great story for me, but you made me click twice. First to Holy Cow, where I read the summary, then I had to click to actually go to the source. Why don't you just go to the source? To which I say, why don't you go work for your company for free? It's the same thing. So the compensation we get for finding that story is the exposure of those 3 banner ads.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't have that, then yes, you would have only 1 click. But you would not get that 1 click because we couldn't afford to do something unless we had some compensation in the middle. And some people, I guess they view their time as so valuable that 2 clicks makes it untenable for them. I'm compared to not finding the story ever. So those people, I just tell them, this is turning out to be not such an enchanting interview. I'm telling you all these things. But so my logic to those people is that, you know what, if you can find a story that's as good as we can find a story, don't click on it. Just go find. In fact, you find a story and tell me the story. And then I'll put my contributors on it and we'll create a model. But that's a whole different...
And what do you think about these people who think everything on the internet should be free? That there should be no advertising?
They should go work for free. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever put the genie back in the bottle where people will pay to read the New York Times. Okay, I find that hard to believe. God bless Rupert if he can pull that off. I don't see how, because it's a supply and demand issue, and there's kind of infinite supply, right? So if the New York Times started charging people for access, and they covered, I don't know, Michael Jackson's funeral, and so you went to New York Times, you wanted to read about Michael Jackson's funeral, and it's, you clicked and it said put in a monthly subscription or whatever, right? But we just go to the BBC.com or go to CNN.com or ArianaHuffington.com and we get coverage of Michael Jackson things. So I mean, it's hard. It's like there's 2 restaurants next door to each other, and one's giving away food and the other one's charging for food, and it's the same food. What are you going to do? I mean, it has to be much better food. That's possible, but the New York Times, I'm not complaining about the editorial, but how do they prove that their editorial is worth paying for when you can go to CNN.com and not? So the question becomes, can you get CNN to also charge? Because if everybody were charging for food, if you want to eat, you got to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't imagine you can make that phone call because, Rupert calls up CNN and says, I'm charging, you have to charge too. That's called antitrust. I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you put that genie back in the bottle. But having said that, one model that America may have to embrace is the BBC model, which is the government, right, is ostensibly doing that. The problem in America is that most people fear that the government is controlling their news. But it seems to me that the BBC is pretty harsh on its own government. So it doesn't seem to have stopped the BBC. I think Americans would sort of go crazy to think that the government controls the news, therefore the news will not criticize the government. They would be afraid of that. But, in a sense, the government controls the education system, which arguably is more influential, right? So I don't know. Or we could go to like a foundation model where, there'll be these filthy rich foundations, and what they'll do is they'll pay for journalists to do investigative reporting, and then, I don't know, they'll give that news away for free or something, but they'll be the source of money for true investigative reporting to happen. I don't think we can go to a world where there is no investigative reporting, right? I mean, let's say during Watergate, you know, so like somebody sends out a tweet that says Richard Nixon is a crook. I mean, it's not quite Washington Post level. You know what I'm saying? That would be a challenge.
So there's still, from that tweet, someone could go and see the Washington Post and have a look in the Washington Post, search around.
Well, and you know, Woodward and Bernstein found the source and worked for it, and you know, and I don't know, took 6 months of research to out Richard Nixon. That's much different than Lonely Boy 15 says Richard Nixon is a crook. Not quite the same.
Over here, we prosecuted and fined somebody for getting angry that their airport was closed, and he said in a tweet that he was going to blow it up. And we found him and prosecuted him. So we take our
Really?
tweets seriously over
Yeah,
here.
wow. Really?
Yeah, really.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm hoping
Must
that
have been a
you-
long line that day. Getting through security. He should fly first class, get a different line.